for Metro West Ambulance. They were there. I do want you to know that when I hit a piece of wood in a bike lane on baseline at Cornelius Pass, and I was riding behind somebody who kind of obscured the wood for me, that who should have pointed it out to me, but that somebody will remain nameless since I'm married to him.
Yeah, the usual protocol is you say something like debris up ahead or to your right, to your left or something. Yeah.
Exactly. So I hit the wood and kind of went flying and hit my, I actually hit my head on the curb.
Oh.
And I have a big dent in my helmet, big ad here for helmet use and good helmet use. I had a really good helmet, but with the new MIPS technology, so I was pleased about that. But as I was kind of coming around, and the fire department was there, and I registered my complaint with the Board of County Commissioners for not keeping a cleaner bike lane. And,
yeah.
And
that's in Jerry's district too. Because I think you were on the west side of Cornelius Pass Road, weren't you?
Well, yeah, but just barely. Could have very easily been mine.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's an area where three kind of come together there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did, and I was complaining to the fire department, and my other riding partner said, "Wait a minute, you need to understand. She is on the Board of County Commissioners," so they got a good laugh out of that. But they were great. And they took my bicycle to the fire station where we picked it up later. So it was to the hospital, and 5 days later, I guess, surgery with a plate and 8 screws. So, and I'm still, it's the second day without oxycodone. That's a big accomplishment. I look for little victories these days, and that's one of them. So, okay. But for a while there just wasn't enough Oxycontin in the world. But it's healing. It's still pretty painful. I'm in a sling and will be for 8 weeks. So,
well, I was a little surprised to see you on the screen, but you if you need to turn off the screen and take a nap or whatever, take your Oxycontin, then go ahead and do it.
Thank you. I may have to, but I do. I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank everybody for reaching out. And I got a nice card from everybody, and just I have felt supported. So thank you to everybody. And I'm sorry to be, a klutz here.
Oh, yeah. Jerry, do you have anything?
I really don't have anything. It was a nice 3-day weekend, and nice to disconnect for a little bit. But as September usually starts, the calendars have all gotten much busier, and so look forward to a busy week.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I have too much. I should check my calendar here in my brains to see if there's something I wanted to share with the rest of the board. But while I do that, maybe we can pivot around to some of our leadership folks. Tanya, do you have anything that you want to share with us in week 3 now, I think it is?
It is the beginning of week 3. So a couple items, just as a reminder, we do have a special board meeting at 10 a.m. With one singular item, and that is to approve the IGAs relative to childcare with the school districts. Yeah. Mentioned last week, and just want to just remind the commissioners that Latricia Tillman will be starting, our new Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, and she will be introduced formally at the board meeting.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
I do have something that a couple of us were part of, but let me pivot over to Roy. Roy, do you have anything for us today?
A couple of things. Nice to see Pam up and around.
It is, yeah.
Why don't you wave with the other hand?
That's the best I can do.
A couple of things real quickly. One, trying to put together something with Diane in regard to some apprenticeship programs. We've been talking with WSI, but they're really not quite equipped to do that. They have to work through somebody else. And so We had a great conversation last Friday with Bob Tackett, who many of you know, and he's
Oh, yeah.
with Northwest Labor, and they hit it off really well, I think. Bob also represents the Teamsters, one of the unions he represents, and that's the group that's out at the plants, and so that's moving along this week. A few meetings in regard to Ostera. We've got them, I think this is the beginning of the really analysis portion. So I think that's Wednesday, Friday. Wednesday, Thursday, yeah. Some long days there, but thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Roy. I just reminded here on my calendar, we did a tour of the Wingspan.
Less,
I'm really sorry that you missed that, Pam. But the three of us were there and the chair, and I was very impressed.
I was too.
It's big enough to do some really big things, bigger than anything we've been able to do in Washington County, and yet it's fairly it has a sort of intimacy and a scale to it that's is nothing like the convention center in terms of its size, of course, but it has a nice intimacy as well as a capacity to serve. Was it 1,400?
I don't recall. Cool lighting too.
In that, what's that?
Cool lighting inside the.
Beautiful lighting. They really have done a great job with the interior. I think that it's not a barn. It's definitely a place that we can take business visitors, folks from out of town who are here. It's got that kind of finish to it, which is great. I'm looking forward to when we can start using it and when COVID turns around and we can all return back to some sense of normalcy. I was very impressed. It was great. It was a long time in coming, Roy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
I provide-
Diane, do you have anything for us?
Before we move to Diane, just a couple things on
excuse
Wingspan. Just from a seating capacity, the banquet center can seat up to 1,600, so that's a very nice seating space. Just to add on to your comments, what I was so impressed by is the acoustics in the space. Is very well done. I will note that Wingspan will be a COVID testing site, so it's a great opportunity for the community to be introduced to this wonderful asset we have in Washington County.
Yeah, thank you for those great points. Yeah. So Pam, there'll be something to look forward to when you come back. Diane?
Survived the windstorm really well. Our pump stations and treatment plants remained operational, but we did lose power at the ABC to the point that we lost our battery systems to our IT system. So they got it back up and running this morning, I think at bright and early at 6:30, so we're looking pretty good now. So we always, when there's these huge windstorms, we're always monitoring the system because of the power situations. The apprenticeship program is rather exciting. So we're looking to have a program for these water sector jobs where people can enter at a beginning stage and they can learn the mechanical, electrical, instrumentation, and even operational skills. These are great jobs for young people and people who are transitioning from other careers. So we're really excited about the conversation and hoping to get some expertise to write what it's going to take to get through the BOLI's process for apprenticeship. The other things that are going on is Roy talked about the Ostera negotiations. That's a big one this week. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we don't have a lot in the way, in fact, we normally wouldn't have anything with respect to regular work, board agenda items, but we do have one. I assume that we're time pressed, and so we're slotting this in. It's the intergovernmental agreement with Washington County School Districts for help and funding for childcare, and unless there's something that we need to discuss now, I think what is Marnie? You're gonna. I don't know if you're gonna touch that actually in the next item. So why don't we go on and start with your update? Maybe we can get this all done before the chair even shows up. Morning, Marnie.
Is that better? Okay, great. So yes, this morning I'm going to give you a quick update on the grant for child care providers. It's a collaboration with all of the school districts in Washington County. And then, as you mentioned, we are asking you to consider approval of an action item related to the IGAs with the school districts at the special meeting this morning at 10. So, okay, so since we began the grant program with MESO, just in a little over a week's time, we had over 349 applications received as of last Friday. 211 of the applications we have been able to verify as currently licensed, so they were working through that process. 178 English-speaking providers and 33 Spanish-speaking providers, and we were really pleased with the 33 Spanish-speaking providers. All of the information about this grant program is going out in both English and Spanish. We've removed a lot of the limiting priorities, and so the providers have been really pleased with that because we've been kind of talking about all of our community-based organizations, including these child care providers, have been really appreciative of the funding opportunities, but overwhelmed with the application processes throughout. And so they're really pleased that we're making this simple, and really this is just an opportunity to shore up and ensure that these current child care providers are able to keep their doors open and help our parents and families who need to get back to school. So we are doing one more push this week just to kind of get the rest. Our goal is that all of the eligible child care providers would receive some of the funding.
You talk about limiting priorities. Are you talking about something beyond just an excess of paperwork, or what is it you are?
So in the original, when we had the limited funding before this board approved the additional 1.5 million, when we were going to have to use some boundaries to limit who we would be able to fund, because with the original funding, we weren't able to fund all of the childcare, the currently licensed childcare providers. But because we have enough funding, we were able to take some of those limiting factors away.
Okay.
For example, the size of the child care provider, the employees.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next. So the other authorization from August 20th was for grant for a partnership with the school district so that we could support learning support programs for all of our community, and especially highlight the need for essential workers, including school teachers and staff, as well as our county employees, but also just the broad community. One of the goals in this program was really to reduce the educational gap that we're concerned about, as most schools, for at least the first part of the school year, are going to be completely online. So we have met with all of the school districts at this point. They're all working closely with child care providers and finalizing plans. All of the programs have agreed that they will serve essential workers, like I said, including staff, county staff, CWS staff, and the school staff, but also meet community need. We have an IGA that is ready to go out the door this week, assuming that this board approves the IGAs later this morning. We're encouraging support of low-income families at 300% of federal guidelines, and we're asking the schools to work with the providers to provide direct subsidies and assist with applications, so helping the parents and families with those applications.
So what does 300% of the federal poverty guidelines look like in terms of income?
Sorry, I don't have that number.
Okay, I mean,
That's such an obvious question, and I didn't think of it, but it is higher than It is higher than some federal programs.
Yeah, quite a bit.
it's
I mean, that's
similar
a number that
to-
you don't normally see a number that high.
Right, it's similar to WIC eligibility.
Okay.
Roy and I are guessing it's somewhere in the mid-60s.
Yeah,
Family 4.
Yeah.
yeah, I'll get that number to you. Sorry, that's such an
That
obvious
sounds
question.
about right, yeah.
Yeah. It really supports working families too that have some wage. So it goes above, a lot of programs will cut off at 100 or 150% of poverty. So we wanted to go a little bit higher so that we could support as many families as possible. Okay, so next is and I'm going to show you an allocation slide next, but the allocation is based on school district size, and we also looked at enrollment of vulnerable populations. So the data that we used was free and reduced lunch populations, high mobility, and then looking at students with disabilities. So mobility is a number that's, it's a number collected by the schools. It's a threshold of changing schools in a single year, so it takes into account some homeless and transient students. So the next slide. So this shows, based on the allocation formula, what we're proposing each school district receives. The school districts are satisfied with these numbers. We work together to come up with the allocation formula. And then you'll see the minimum range of student slots with full subsidy. So what this is that the slots are based on schools using all of the funds for subsidies, which we don't anticipate they'll do, but it's hard to come up with a percentage of, full pay. So that's why this is the minimum range of slots. So if every student that participated were fully subsidized, then we would serve between 1,500 and 1,800 students. We anticipate that not all students will need full subsidy based on the 300% of poverty. And so we'll be able to serve more students, as well as there'll be full pay parents that don't receive any subsidy, and we really can't predict what that is.
Are you wanting questions as you go along? Sure. Or how would you like to do it? Two. One in Tualatin, Tiger Tualatin, looks small in comparison to its size. Is there a reason their allocation is a little bit smaller?
So we looked at student population, and then we also factored in the other high-risk free and reduced lunch population, mobility, and students with
So
disabilities.
there were other factors other than just size?
Right, yes.
And the second real quick question is that these aren't all the school districts, obviously, in Washington County, because some come in from other counties. So we were doing predominantly districts that were 100% in Washington County, or totally, I guess, 100%.
I think we only have 7.
So I think
schools.
these are
this
all
is
the
of them.
school
I mean, North
districts in
Plains
what?
is in Hillsborough.
Right,
Well, you've got things like Scappoose School District that comes into Washington County. You've got a little bit of Portland that comes into you
Right.
have Westland that comes in a little bit to into Washington County. So we were only, I guess, focusing on districts 100% in Washington County,
Yes.
I presume.
Yeah.
So those who have, okay.
yes. Yeah, there are other school districts that serve Washington County residents, and those are, we use the ESD designation of a Washington County school district, so.
And I lied, I did have one more. The ESD is not there. I was wondering why they have certain services they provide, and there's no allocation.
Right, they chose not to be a part of the allocation to support through the other schools.
I see, okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay.
Just for the record, we're welcoming our chairwoman has just arrived, and thank you for showing up. And what do you have for us as far as board communications?
I'll have to find my notes.
Okay.
I misplaced them at the moment. Yeah, I'll catch up with you. I'll have to catch up.
Okay, well, this is my last slide, and then we can, any other questions, but just so that you, so our plan for contract management, after working with the schools, and, you know, one of the main goals is that we know, are we going to spend all of this funding, or will we need to redistribute it? So we're going to provide 50% of the award upfront in advance to ensure immediate implementation. And then we've asked the school districts, in conversations, of course, the IGA is up for your consideration this morning, but the school districts have agreed to submit statistics and projections for full utilization of the funds by mid-October. If any school district is projecting that they would not be able to fund the full allocation on that slide with the allocation numbers, then we would redistribute that across school districts. Or if we didn't think that we would be able to redistribute it across school districts, we would come back, it would go back into the CRF contingency fund. And that is what I have for you, and hoping that answer any of your questions so that you feel prepared for your board action this morning in an hour or so.
That was good.
And any other questions?
Yeah.
Nope.
Commissioner Treese, any other questions? Nope, okay, great.
No, I just want to say thank you again to the board for allocating these fundings. I think it's really important to our community and for our schools. And also Evan Weaver and several folks in support services who really have pulled together. I've said this is a program that we would typically have taken 6 to 8 months to plan and figure out how to accomplish. And staff and support services and Evan got this accomplished in less than 2 weeks. So thank you to everyone for the hard work.
Yes, and also for the folks at Community Action and 211 that helped us examine the numbers on all of this. So,
Yeah.
yes.
And our
please.
superintendents, of course, and school partners.
Yes, please extend our thanks, and let's try and get these dollars put to work so that our children are cared for and our parents can have peace of mind as they work and contribute to our economy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie.
I'm just going to
Chair
stay here for a
Chair
few minutes.
Harrington, just to answer one of the questions that came up, and Marnie, I don't know this off the top of my head. I want to express appreciation for Michael Niemeyer for sending me this note as you were talking. So family of 4 at 300% is about 78,600.
Thank you. Thank you, Google.
For some reason, I thought it was 24 something and at 100, so that'd be close, yeah.
3 times that.
Great, thank you very much.
I'm just going to hang out here for a minute if that's all right, because we're,
Chair, if I could throw in a free advertisement too, you know, you mentioned Community Action. I got an email from them. I think everyone did, broad email saying that they're looking for some help on, for some of our lower income families' kids getting into school and being able to have the technology they need and things like that. I think it was $25 per week per kid or something like that. So I was going to see about allocating some of my SIP money to that program. So I just kind
Well,
of a
it's
free
not
advertisement.
SIP money anymore. It comes out of our general fund, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, so we've got that. So I just wanted to, I guess, make sure everybody knew that they were looking for some funds to help the kids get started for school.
Okay. Great, well, thank you, Vice Chair Schouten, for getting the meeting going. What I am attempting to distribute to my colleagues right now, as well as, well, let me finish.
We have one here for Pam Treese's packet here.
I'm
So-
assuming Pam got one electronically.
Elizabeth's taking care of that.
Okay.
So what you have in front of you is information with regard to the Metro Supportive Housing Services Overview Committee. Elizabeth, if you want to come up. So, go ahead.
Thank you all. Elizabeth Mazzara Myers, Chair to Chief of Staff to Chair Harrington. What you have before you is a very brief memo that will talk about the selection process for the Washington County representatives to the Metro Supportive Housing Services Oversight Committee. A quick reminder, this is the big committee that will oversee the largest part of the Supportive Housing Services measure that will be housed at Metro. Each county gets 5 individuals, 1 ex officio, as does Metro and City of Portland, so a total of 5 ex officio. The only voting members are those appointed by the counties. I've been in negotiations with the other counties, and I have my laptop with me because there's a clarification from here that just came through, so I want to make sure I'm getting this right. This is the proposed process. We will, and let me say this, we will open an application process. Metro has provided an application. I'm vetting it right now with staff, so we've got some tweaks to it. There'll be a common application across all 3 counties. We'll open it and advertise it by county. Staff will then work to vet those per their own expertise of what the county needs. I would like to recommend, which is not reflected here, I would like to recommend that the ex officio that is appointed by your board to sit on this oversight committee joins in that application process, maybe not from the very beginning, but at least through part of the vetting, so that there's a board representative as part of that process. That group will then come forward with 8 to 10 candidates. Each board will have a choice, and this is where the clarification is, of how you move that 8 to 10 forward. Because you have an ex officio on that application process committee, I might recommend that ex officio reports back to the board to say, the process looks good, we're moving forward with these 8 to 10 to negotiations. That would be my recommendation. Then, with those 8 to 10, all 3 counties come together with Metro to negotiate down to 5. The reason we're starting with a larger pool and going to 5 is Metro has a very exact list of boxes they need to check based on background, based on expertise, et cetera. And so the goal is to match, from the 8 or 10 to the 5. The county is very involved in that negotiation process, as would be the ex officio, again, as I recommend we do. Once those 5 are narrowed, they're brought forward and recommended to Metro. Metro will then appoint the 5 that we've brought to them. The only way they wouldn't is if for some reason they see somebody clearly not qualified, which given the process I think would be hard to imagine. Something to remember is that in the first year, I'm going to get this wrong, I'm sorry, 2 or 3 have to time out in order to have rotating times on the board, on the oversight committee. And so the 2 or 3 that don't get put forward can then be put forward in that second round, and then we're back on that rotating schedule. And I'm sorry I don't have those numbers in my head. I thought I had them, so I didn't write them down. I'm really pleased with this process. I think that it puts the board really, especially with the ex officio on, it puts subject matter staff here at Washington County, as well as the board, really in control of who goes forward. And again, the selection process at Metro really is just about checking those boxes to make sure they've got the whole region covered. I will note, separate from this is that Tri-County Regional Body. That is a separate board. They have a separate pot of money. We're going to start negotiations on that, and I will come back to you before we start that. That won't be seated until spring. The goal for this body, the Oversight Committee, is to start the process pretty much immediately as soon as all the boards agree to the process, with the committee being identified and seated by the end of October, which then keeps us on track with them having several meetings before starting the actual LIP oversight process, which will begin January, February, and March. So I know that was a lot. I'm here for questions.
So this is just an intro in terms of what's happening to the process. So we do have some time yet, but we wanted to make sure on a timely basis that we got this information to you.
And Metro is and sorry, Metro is looking for you to okay this within the week so that we can get the applications out starting next week. So things are moving quickly, and I'll take the chair's lead on sort of what the next step is for getting your okay.
So this is just, it's what what we would be okaying is the general process, okay? Not a set of names today, that's all.
So refresh my memory as to what's the purpose and objective of this committee?
So this oversight committee will actually approve the local implementation plans from each of the counties. As well, they will have ongoing oversight of both Metro and the county's local implementation plans. So if you'll recall, in the measure, Metro gets, I believe it's 5%, I forget what the percentage is, of administrative fees. This is the body that will go back and say, do they need that much? Is it too much? Should we be putting more money back into the pot? As well, once the local implementation plans are approved, this is the body that then will annually get the reports to say, are you keeping track with the things you said you were going to do? So this really is, I would say, one of the critical ongoing seated body that oversees these dollars.
This is the oversight committee that the voters approved as part of approving the.
Yeah, I remember that part. I just, for some reason, I had affordable housing in my head, and this is not affordable housing.
Yes, supportive housing.
Right.
That is an
Yes.
oversight committee too.
I know, that's an oversight, you're exactly correct, but I was thinking, we're already off and running on the affordable
Yeah.
housing, so this would be the tail wagging the dog, so it has to be the next thing we're talking about.
That's right,
Okay.
yes.
Now
As
now I'm on board.
As a
Great.
general concept, I don't have any problem at all. Before we get into the actual recommendation selections, I suspect that we're going to see the list of boxes, as you inferred, that would be there, because
Various
you
positions, yeah.
need some real technical people on there who are really well immersed in the
Yes.
service level. I mean, I'm not saying everybody shouldn't apply, but we need some folks who are on the ground who have experience.
Absolutely, and those boxes, as I call them, were actually approved in the body of the measure. And so those are already pre-chosen, they were negotiated in advance before we went to the ballot.
I don't
And I'm
remember.
happy to share those, but the
I
folks
know
that.
I need that reminder.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And I will circulate that when I get back to my seat. But, you know, I've had Josh, Comey, Kristen, Marnie,
Keith raising her hand.
Jenny, and Annette take a look at this process as well as the application. And I'm getting feedback from the subject matter experts as well to make sure that it's reflecting sort of how they think we're going to get to these right boxes and the right people.
We'll make sure to circulate that to the commission. Commissioner Treese?
Thank you. Elizabeth, can you define for me what ex officio means?
Yeah, so it'll be a member of the board that will be appointed to the committee by your board, but will not have voting rights. The reason I
Okay.
think this is so important is each county gets one, as does Metro, as does the city of Portland, and it is my experience that elected folks have a strong voice even if they're not voting. And so I think someone who's really going to be committed to this process should be on there, because staff will be attending these and watching, but it'll really be, I think, the ex officio that will be able to bring the voice of the board forward again, even if they're not voting.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, good to see you.
That was, beyond that, the only other thing to report is that the collective call to end violence letter did get finished and released to the media last Friday. We continue to have a growing list of local elected officials throughout our region who are participating in that, and we'll continue our work together.
Yeah, that's a good job. Great job.
Yes.
Hard work.
Thank you to Elizabeth particularly for working the wordsmithing of that letter across so many different organization types and getting us to where we are today.
And special thanks to Elizabeth for tracking me down during that time. And I really do appreciate it, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Happy to do it. Thanks.
Chair Harrington, prior to moving to the next item, can I make another announcement that came in through email while we were sitting here? And I just think it's important to update the board on. Fire EMS and law enforcement agencies are responding to a fire south of Hague Lake around Dundee Road, now called the Powerline Fire. A level 2 evacuation order for Dundee Road has been issued. Level 2 is an order for people to prepare to evacuate immediately. Vulnerable populations and other precautionary evacuation orders may happen at level 2. Hague Lake is closed. There are numerous other brush fires around the county. The state EOC is now activating, and Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue Operations Center activated last night. We are not activating the county EOC at this time. However, we may activate the EOC if so deemed in the future. So I just wanted to update the board. Philip is in process of issuing communications to the community right now.
Well, I hope everyone will be safe. I have a friend who was evacuated last night from his home, and it can be a scary thing, certainly unknown, but I would hope that everyone would take care of themselves, their family, and all of their animals, all their loved ones. So, all right. Any questions on that? Nope. Seeing none, we'll move on to our next topic, which is an executive session. Do we have a motion to move to executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub H?
Moved?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. So anyone not